title, The Ancient Philosophy That Fixes Your Mind, Stoicism Explained Simply. What if I told you there's a 2,000-year-old trick that can make you almost impossible to upset? Not some fake positivity nonsense, not pretending everything is fine when it's not. I'm talking about a real mental shift that emperors, soldiers, and some of the smartest people in history used to stay calm when everything around them was falling apart. It's called Stoicism, and in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Here's the thing most people get wrong about life. We spend almost all our energy worrying about stuff we can't control. Think about it. How much time do you spend stressing about what other people think of you? About whether your boss likes you? About the economy? About traffic? Now here's the uncomfortable truth. You have zero control over any of that. Your boss could fire you tomorrow for no reason. The economy could crash. That person you're trying to impress might just not like your face. And there's nothing you can do about it. So why do we keep torturing ourselves over these things? About 2,000 years ago, some very smart people in ancient Greece and Rome figured something out. They realized that most human suffering comes from one simple mistake. We confuse what we can control with what we can't control. Think of it like this. Imagine you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean. A storm is coming. Now you have two choices. You can stand on the deck screaming at the clouds, begging the storm to go away. Or you can go below deck, secure your belongings, and prepare for rough waters. The storm doesn't care about your feelings. It's coming either way. The Stoics said, most of life works exactly like this. External events are the storm. They're going to happen no matter what you do. But how you respond? That's completely up to you. This idea has a fancy name. It's called the dichotomy of control. Here's how it works. Everything in your life falls into one of two categories. Category 1 is things you control. This includes your own thoughts, your own actions, your own effort, and your own choices. Category 2 is things you don't control. This includes other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, your genetics, other people's actions, and basically everything external. Now here's where it gets powerful. The Stoics said you should pour all your energy into Category 1 and completely let go of Category 2. Not ignore it, not pretend it doesn't exist, just stop suffering over it. Because worrying about things you can't control is like trying to push a river. It's exhausting, it's pointless, and the river is going to flow wherever it wants anyway. Let me give you a real example. Say you're going for a job interview. You really want this job. You've prepared for weeks. Now, most people walk into that interview with their happiness depending on whether they get hired. If they get the job, they're happy. If they don't, they're crushed. But here's what the Stoics would say. You don't control whether you get hired. That's up to the interviewer. Maybe they already have someone in mind. Maybe they don't like your handshake. Maybe they're just having a bad day. But you do control how prepared you are. You control how clearly you speak. You control whether you show up on time. You control the effort you put in. So a Stoic walks into that interview with one goal: do my absolute best with everything I control. If you do that and still don't get the job, fine. You did everything you could. There's literally nothing else you could have done. That's not failure. That's peace. Now you might be thinking this sounds nice in theory, but does it actually work in real life? Let me tell you about a guy named Marcus Aurelius. Marcus was the emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful people in the entire world at the time. But his life was actually pretty terrible. He spent most of his reign fighting wars he didn't want to fight. Several of his children died young. His own generals tried to overthrow him. He suffered from chronic health problems his entire life. And yet every night, Marcus would sit down and write in his journal. Those writings became one of the most famous philosophy books ever written. It's called Meditations. And what did he write about? Exactly what we've been talking about. He reminded himself over and over again. Focus on what you can control. Let go of what you can't. Do your job. Be a good person, and accept that the rest is not up to you. This wasn't some guy sitting in a comfortable library writing about theory. This was a man running an empire during constant crisis, using these ideas to keep his sanity. Here's another Stoic technique that sounds weird, but actually works. It's called negative visualization. Most self-help stuff tells you to imagine positive outcomes, picture yourself succeeding, visualize the good stuff. The Stoics did the opposite. They deliberately imagined the worst-case scenario. What if I lose my job? What if this person leaves me? What if I get sick? Now this sounds depressing, but here's why it works. First, it prepares you emotionally. When bad things actually happen, you're not blindsided. You've already processed it mentally. Second, it makes you grateful for what you have right now. When you really imagine losing something, you suddenly appreciate that you still have it. Third, it takes away the fear. Most of our anxiety comes from vague worries about the future. But when you actually think through the worst case, you often realize it's survivable. The Stoics weren't pessimists. They were realists who understood that life includes suffering, and they'd rather face that truth than hide from it. Now some people hear all this and say it sounds cold, emotionless, like you're just supposed to not care about anything. But that's not what Stoicism is about. The Stoics cared deeply. Marcus Aurelius loved his family. He mourned when his children died. He felt anger and sadness like anyone else. The difference is he didn't let those emotions control his actions. There's a big difference between feeling something and being controlled by something. A Stoic feels anger but doesn't lash out blindly. A Stoic feels fear but doesn't run from everything scary. A Stoic feels sadness, but doesn't collapse into despair. The goal isn't to become a robot. The goal is to respond to life with wisdom instead of pure reaction. So how do you actually use this stuff? Here's a simple exercise you can try today. Tonight before bed, take 5 minutes and ask yourself these questions. What did I stress about today that I couldn't actually control? What could I have done differently with the things I could control? What might I lose tomorrow that I should appreciate right now? That's it, just 5 minutes of honest reflection. Do this every day for a week and you'll start noticing something. You'll catch yourself in the moment, stressing about something you can't control. And you'll be able to step back and refocus on what actually matters. It's not magic, it's just training your brain to think differently. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor sat in a military tent, surrounded by war and death, and wrote these words. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's still true today. You can't control the economy. You can't control what people think of you. You can't control the 1,000 random things that happen in life. But you can control how you respond. You can control where you put your energy. You can control whether you let external chaos destroy your internal peace. That's the whole game. And the Stoics figured it out 20 centuries ago. Now you know it too. The only question is whether you'll use it. Word count, approximately 1/400 words. Estimated runtime, 9–10 minutes at natural speaking pace.